So getting into service operation, our focus for today. In service operation, we are focused on managing the day-to-day services and activities of the IT infrastructure. There are a number of different processes that we use to perform this management, and there are also functions or functional areas associated with service operation. So it is in service operation that we introduce or define the service desk and the other groups, including technical, application, and operations management. Certainly these functional areas are engaged throughout the service lifecycle, but because service operation is where the customer sees the value in IT, this is where we actually introduce and define those functions. Some of the key concepts. We remember from the beginning when we talked about the RACI matrix that communication is important, or we can identify paths of communication using the RACI matrix. It is, I would say, even more important in service operation because there are so many parties involved. We can have a request that goes from the end user to the service desk, who hands it off to IT, who may need to reach out to a vendor to order a particular part for repair, and then that comes back into shipping and receiving, who then notifies the service desk, and so on and so on. So it's important, even more so when we talk about service operations, to understand the importance of communication. The service desk is seen as that single point of contact or communication for IT. So when the business contacts IT, to them it looks like a single entity. So it's important that the service desk represent IT well. They can help to improve the quality of customer interactions with IT as a whole. They really do advocate for the customer. We see this many times where the service desk will take the side of the customer, as it were, and they will really be focused on restoring service to that customer. So they're not as focused, or they should not be as focused on the technical troubleshooting as they should be on just making sure that the end user or customer is able to do their job again as quickly as possible. By employing less costly resources on the service desk, it allows for the more skilled resources to focus on proactive technical delivery activities. The technical aspect isn't as important for the service desk. However, it is extremely important for the service desk to have a good mix of technical knowledge skills as well as the customer service or people skills. The service desk has as its primary focus or mission to restore service to the customer as quickly as possible. When we look at processes within IT operations, the focus of incident management, or the incident management process, is also to restore normal service to customers as quickly as possible. So therefore, the service desk is typically the owner of the incident management service. The service desk will also handle more than just break-fix type of incidents. An incident being defined as a failure or degradation of service. In addition to handling those types of failures, the service desk is also normally tasked with handling requests. So it could be a service request or an access request. They may need to manage events and alerts as well. And we'll talk about the differences here in a few moments between incidents, service requests, and events and alerts. When a particular service desk analyst receives a request, it's important for them to be able to prioritize the request quickly and easily. In order to establish that prioritization, we look at two different factors. we ask the business, first of all, to define for us what are the services that we support for you that have the highest level urgency, meaning what are the most important business services. So what has the highest business importance level? So your core applications would be the highest level urgency. So whether it be a hospital who has particular patient management or electronic hospital record system, or any other type of organization that has critical life or death types of services, then certainly those would be the highest level urgency. Once the business establishes the importance level of the individual services, then it's helpful to see or to understand when the incident actually occurs, what is the impact of that incident. So urgency should be established prior to the incident occurring, but impact is evaluated at the time that the incident occurs. So again, urgency is how critical is this particular service to the business. Impact is the number of people impacted. So is this a widespread outage? There may be a specific impact level defined for VIPs within the organization. Or is it just a single person impacted? Or is this perhaps a very minimal impact? So by forming a matrix between impact and urgency, you can then establish and identify your priorities. So for example, if a particular incident has a high level impact, so this is impacted a large population, and the relative importance of the service involved is the highest, or it's the level 1 critical urgency, then we could say that that particular request would have a level 1 priority. That will then in turn help us to manage our workload, to put the highest priority requests first, and to also identify what our expected resolution timeframes might be for the particular request. I've mentioned the service desk as a function. There are other functional areas within service operation. So if a service desk analyst needs to escalate a particular issue, they may be escalating to technical management, to applications management, or operations management. The process of categorizing and prioritizing the incidents that come in can be very helpful for escalation to these other groups. Technical management, as the name implies, relates to the management of the technical architecture, or put a little bit more plainly, these are the people who support and deliver hardware for the organization. If technical management is hardware, then logically applications management is software support and delivery. Operations management is involved more in the day-to-day operations, and the group is split into two subgroups or subfunctions called operations control and facilities management. Operations control is involved in monitoring the various systems and services and ensuring that services are kept online. Facilities management is responsible or accountable for the data center and the overall physical infrastructure. There is a bit of functional overlap between and among these groups, so there may be some things that are some particular areas that might be shared by applications and operations management. For example, if you have database backups that are required, the application team might identify that a new service has been brought online, and they would coordinate with the operations management teams to ensure that a particular database management or backup routine is in place. Each of these functional areas also has a dual role. They are involved in both proactive activities of service delivery, so delivering new or changed services to their customers, but they also do have to be involved still in service support or reacting to customers' day-to-day needs. That's why it's very helpful for them if the service desk is well trained and if there is a good working relationship with the service desk, so that the service desk can handle as many of the ongoing support issues as possible. The other functional areas, more so than the service desk, are more involved in problem management. Excuse me. So we talk about how a single issue might be handled by the incident management process versus the problem management process. So to give the example of a printer issue. So somebody's unable to print. If we follow incident management, then the service desk would instruct the end user to reroute to an alternate printer, or they would set up the reroute to an alternate printer for the end user. On the other side, so perhaps once the service is restored by rerouting to the alternate printer, the service desk may then escalate the issue to a printer support team who would be responsible for troubleshooting the printer, determining, is this paper jam? Does it just need more toner? Does this need to be sent out for warranty repair? The idea here is that whereas problem management and getting to the root cause is important, it shouldn't delay the restoration of service to the end user, and that's why the two processes are separate. Problem management is further broken down into proactive problem management. So if you are still in the design or transition phase and you can capture known errors, that is considered to be proactive problem management. You are looking at trends, perhaps over time, and by identifying trends and doing trend analysis, you can effectively prevent future problems from happening. Problems can be costly to an organization when you have to react to a problem. A problem is defined as an issue that can trigger or cause one or more incidents. So when we're dealing with reactive problem management, we're basically in firefighting mode. We want to try to minimize the impact of the incidents that can't be prevented and get to that root cause. So these are the points that I was making in talking about that printer example, how incidents and problems both respond to events. They're not the same, so they have very different and divergent goals. Therefore, the responsible party, or whoever is accountable for incident management, should not be the same as the person accountable for problem management, because they're really going in two different directions. Another definition here, so we've learned that an incident is the failure or degradation of service, and that is different from an event. An event you can think of as anything that's captured by an event log. That's what it is at its most basic. There might be certain types of events that are just informational. There might be events that are more serious, and those would be considered warnings. And then there are events that are their most serious, which are considered exceptions. Informational might be still significant enough to be captured by an event log, but it's not anything that is caused or has potential to cause a disruption of service. Therefore, informational events do not typically overlap with incidents. So just because somebody has logged into a server, for example, that doesn't mean that I need to create an incident. A warning would be a potential threat. A warning might be that a particular server is reaching, say, 80% capacity. That may fall within expected limits. So based on a warning, you may or may not have to take corrective